Hello and welcome to the Copperhead Amateur Series. We're back in Season 5 for Race 3 at the Bristol Motor Speedway. We're here for the Sylvania LED 200, where the Copperhead Amateur Series drivers will go out for 75 laps around this half mile. But here's what qualifying looked like earlier today, as the two duels took to the track to see which of the 71 entries would make it into the 10-car field moving on. Jack Porkins was the early leader in Duel 1, qualified on the pole and was looking strong right from the get-go. But we had some good stories just behind, like Brandon Morris in the 72 car for TRN Motorsports making their returns. They ran Daytona, did not run last week, but are back in this number 72 car with Sealmaster sponsorship, and they are looking very strong just outside the top 25 on the cut line. Your current part-time points leader, Colin Denton in the 64, making another start. However, obviously this is his third out of 6 starts that he will be able to make being a Pennzoil Pro Series driver. Pennzoil Pro Series drivers only allowed to run the double headers. Looking back in the field, a bunch of good runs so far, but that cut line is getting very tense right now as the laps wind down. The 72 car on the tail end of that cut line with the 61 car of Zach Rain hounding him from behind. Meanwhile, out front, the leaders are experiencing some lap traffic with Nathan Ormond and Carson Bowers, two of the cars running at the tail end of the pack, and unlikely that they will make it on to the main feature. Jack Porkins still looking to try and make it through these cars, but the 42 car of Andrew Gorman trying to catch up to him, maybe steal away the win in this dual race. A couple good entries like Cesar Chavez after wrecking out last week at Atlanta. Good to see him have a good comeback here today. And how about Alan Holland in the high-flying racing Dodge, looking very strong in that 11 car. And the 49 car and the 25 also running inside the top 10. Colin Denton, your points leader, does not look like he will be making it through this duel to make it into the feature this time around. The 86 car Francois Chastain having a solid run in his first start in the duels. But as Jack Porkins rounds turns 3 and 4, he will take the undenied victory in this duel, leading all the laps. Gorman's going to come home in second. Gatlin Downey, Malik Alexander, and Christian Parker round out your top 5 for drivers making it in. Zach Rain in 6th, Brandon Morris coming home a solid 7th in that team's return to the series. And down the list, a couple drivers down the list later, like Ashlyn Boyd, expected to see do a little better. But a lot of cars going home after that duel. We'll see just as many going home after this duel as the green flag waves on duel number 2. 35 entries in this duel, which is actually one less than the last duel, but still plenty of drivers won't be making it on. Rick Witt, similar to the first duel, is a Pennzoil Pro Series driver, and he is pulling away at the front. But behind, Samantha Jones, one of the Copperhead Amateur Series regulars in the part-time standings, is working her way up to second place, trying to get around the 16 car of Ryan Kendall. In the back, a couple of cars actually getting into the wall. The 78 car of Kev Shear making his debut for the 78 team back there in the wall early on in the duel. The 43 car looking very strong in the Fitzwater Australia Racing entry, but really nothing so far for the Rage Attack Racing car out front, as Rick Witt is pulled away super far right from the get-go, but lap traffic once again could come into play. Here's the battle for the cut line, all these cars running around the line of entry. Jonathan Rains in the 29 having a good run. And here's some of the cars at the tail end of the pack, as you see Rick Witt starting to close in on those guys and may actually end up catching them before this is all over and done with. We had our first incident of the weekend with the 69 of Eric Van Arsdale getting into the wall. That will bring out the caution flag. And the 69 car going to have heavy rear end damage, but that will not be enough to take him out of the race. You see the cars going around on the outside, including Rick Witt, who restarts the race in the top spot. Samantha Jones now with a new fire ignited, seeing the 80 car, right out front, trying to get past him for the lead. Looking back in the field, the 7733 having good runs. The 77 of Josh Joyner Jr. picking up Auto Value as a new sponsor. And Eli Bride running the 23 car. This car getting sponsorship from RCS Springs, two cars that are trying to improve their equipment as the season progresses and hopefully build up stronger cars to be able to compete inside the top 5. But how about this team, the 96 car of Mac Johnson? Big Hergio Motorsports already got a car in last duel with Malik Alexander, and right now you see him hanging on in the 5th spot. That team's really showing that big motorsports speed we expect to see out of them. and they are starting to come to life in the third race of the season. The 43 car still hanging strong in the second spot, but it's not going to be enough to dethrone Rick Witt, and the Wheelie Motor Chevrolet will go on to win the race, with Ryan Kendall being the third transfer entry, Caleb Henderson sneaking his way in for NS Racing in fourth, and Mac Johnson finishing out in fifth. Aiden Thomas close again, just like he was at Atlanta, but is just barely going to miss out on the cut line in sixth place. A few drivers making their debuts like Noah Kim and Jack Hollick, rounding out the third list of drivers. But that'll lead us right into the main feature, as now the 28 drivers selected after the 10 dual entries have been decided will go up against the 18 full-time drivers to see who will conquer Bristol in the 75-lapper. John Arndt will grab the ASCA Pole Award with Scott Roush on his outside. Gatlin Downey, Isaac Nichols, Gatlin being the highest qualifier after making the field. Rick Witt, you see your second dual winner, and Jack Porkins, they will start 7th and 12th respectively. Vinny Wiese, last week's winner, will run off the grid in 16th. And a lot of the part-time drivers who made it in will be starting shotgun on the field. Here's your onboard cameras for this week. Samantha Jones representing the part-time drivers, able to get that camera after making it through the duels. So gives some part-timers some representation at the front of the field. And Kenny Washington and Jeffrey Finguy show it off for the full-timers today. As the field takes it around turn 4, the pace car will drop down to pit road. One of the shortest tracks we go to, but it's also one of the most exciting. Green flag is in the air, and John Arndt will see him down into turn 1. And just like we saw in the dual races, Arndt wastes no time getting a break from the rest of the pack, and the pack behind him is going to end up slowing down the rest of the field. Gatlin Downey is able to escape into the second spot and is mounting a charge, trying to get to the rear bumper of that 81 car. Last week we saw both the Blue Flare Motorsports and the Red Stallion Racing drivers go head-to-head, but in the end it was a Jay Barker Racing entry to take the win. This time they are looking to change that and try to finish it off. Look at behind, though, the 44 car of Elijah Gordon getting sideways going down the back stretch. That's Tania Breyer involved, the 3 of Megan Johnson. Stuck in the middle there, and he was able to correct it. No caution, so you got to get your wits back and go racing again. But what a slide. Hopefully his tires are still under him after that. Meanwhile, John Arndt is actually pulling away now after 6 laps. And the Blue Flare Motorsports car was super quick, one of the top 3 cars last week, and is continuing that drive here today at Bristol. Completely different track, but looking just as strong. On the hood, you see the Black Lives Matter emblem. That entire team is running commemorative paint schemes for that organization, looking to spread awareness towards racial injustices in the country. And Gatlin Downey trying to reel him in, but so far not looking successful in that 17 Flowmaster Dodge. Just behind him, though, Samantha Jones. That makes 2 out of the top 3 cars part-time entries. But this part-time entry did not have a good start. Went down pit road right from the drop of the green flag and has not re-entered the track. That's Andrew Gorman. And despite making it through with a very fast car in the first duel, does not look to be a good race for him. Might not even start for that 42 car. Here's the 16 of Kendall racing around the track, also having a good run. This will be Kendall's last part-time start, as he will give over the reins of that 16 car to Henry Guo the rest of the season. Behind him, the 14 car, your Daytona winner, Carter Friesen. That's one of the highest accolades a Copperhead Amateur Series driver can get, winning at the Daytona International Speedway, and he's looking to keep that momentum going into the rest of the season and hopefully pick up the even bigger championship trophy at the end of the year. 41 car, you see the National Civil Rights Movement on the hood of this 41 car, looking to try to get his car up to where his teammates is, leading the race, as he is mired deep in the field right now in around the 16th position. John Arndt in the 81 car gapping the field continuously, but if you remember the dual races, lap traffic is going to be a factor, especially with 75 laps as compared to 25 like we saw earlier in the day. Vinny Wiese in the 27 car surprised everyone when he went out and won last week at Atlanta. Not necessarily a surprise to see this team win, but he was not considered a threat most of the race last week until the pit stops came. Could that be the same here today? Malik Alexander and Mac Johnson They are tailing the field right now at the back, but just an accomplishment to see both big motorsports entries for the Copperhead Amateur Series, called Big Hergiel Motorsports in this series, making it into the field, especially with these two drivers looking to show off in their first ever main feature starts. It looks like they got a while to go to be competitive, but just making the feature is an accomplishment in itself. 21 at Curtis running the Core Energy Water Solutions Chevrolet paint scheme for this week. This car will be featured most of the season now, as Venom Energy decided to embrace some other sponsorship starting here at Bristol. Looks pretty good out on the track so far. The night car of Isaac Nichols looking pretty strong, running inside the top 5. The top 5 cars, in fact, are all pretty stout entries in terms of their respective quadrants. The 90 car is one of the teams, one of the factory-based teams, the Ford's factory-based entry in this Copperhead Amateur Series, and Isaac Nichols looking to try to get Ford some good finishes. Smart Motorsports has usually been deemed the flagship team, but you can't ever leave out Knight Hoffman Racing, as they are also a very strong team in the series. And just in front of them, obviously, you remember seeing Scott Roush, one of the best Dodge Racing entries in the field today. You see we're halfway through the race, all the cars flying by. This just gives you a sense of how short the track is. The 81 car has already gone by twice, and the field very much spread out at this point in the race. And you see John Arndt coming to the back of those big Hergiel cars. He's going to have to find a way around as they're racing side by side. No team orders here, as Malik Alexander and Mac Johnson putting on a show in front of Arndt, but I think Arndt would much rather them just go single file and be able to work his way around a little bit easier than they're proving to be right now. But right now it's not like he has too much competition from behind. Here's Kenny Washington, the teammate of the winner last week. Not showing too much strength here today, but this team is looking to just continue to grow. Washington stated that his team very much looking forward to the short tracks later in the year, and hopefully they can get some good runs going. Right now looking okay in the middle of the field. Still plenty of time to improve, though, as the season goes on. Tanya Brer in the 38, the other Rage Attack Racing car. Seems like she's gotten into the wall, but pretty much on her own right now in the middle of the pack, not having the best of starts. Tanya Brer is also in the similar patch, looking to find some good starts at the short tracks and almost even the road courses later in the season. See, the 17 car has been able to catch the 81 a little bit. Gatlin Downey in the 17 using the lap traffic to his advantage and making the 81 car have to get by these cars. But you see Samantha Jones in the Fitzwater Australia Racing cars also made use of the lap cars. Gatlin Downey having a hard time getting around Mac Johnson, and maybe she can move into the second position. And these two Dodges looking very strong. Samantha Jones obviously is a threat to win the part-time championship every season she's been in. But the 17 is proving to be one of the top contenders as well. We'll run the entire schedule in that Flowmaster Dodge, but same thing goes for Samantha Jones in the 43. Scott Roush just behind, making it a Dodge 2-3-4 on the track in the Hitachi Dodge. Ran very well last week at Atlanta, but did not get the finish he exactly wanted, especially considering he had won there last year, but looking very strong here again at Bristol for another top 5 run. How about this car, the 04, the Tacos Racing Team entry? It's not one of the fastest cars in the part-time field, but Parker will have an opportunity in a Blue Flare Motorsports car later in the year, but already making races with this team, that's got to be an eye-opener for a lot of the part-time teams out there, looking to see who's the next big thing in the Copperhead Amateur Series. Pit stops, laps 62 out of 75. It took a long time, but Gatlin Downey and Ryan Kendall, the Red Stallion Racing entries, will be the first ones down. The 27 car Vinny Weiss also following. A car is in the wall on the outside, and caution flag has come out. And our first round of pit stops, likely our only one, will also be followed by our first caution of the race. And that was the 41 car of Jeffrey Finguy. I think Nicholas Wade was the first car to go around. There's the pace car trying to pick up the field. The 81 car, John Arndt, came down pit road. And this is absolutely going to shuffle the field up, but where does everyone file out after this? You see the 5 car almost turns down across Robert Harrison's nose there, and the 41 can't slow down in time. That's the 1 of Kenny Washington and the 44 of Elijah Gordon All full-timers also pile in there. We have an onboard with Kenny Washington here. And, oh, he almost looks like he just slides it in there, thinking that the 5 car was going to come down the track. And he did not end up, and he almost made it worse for himself there. And coming down to just 7 laps to go in the race, you see the leader out front there. That's not actually the leader. John Arndt retains hold of the lead, so made his pit stop at the right time, able to hold on to the lead lap and the lead of the race. As we see the green flag come out once again, second place is Scott Roush in the 37 car, and just behind him, Isaac Nichols in the Ford Performance Ford Mustang. But they'll have to get through Mac Johnson in order to get to him. As you see the 81 wasting no time now, getting to the inside of Vinny Vies, last week's winner. It's not going to be a good race for him this week, as he will go to the inside of the 27, now to the inside of Jack Porkins, runner-up in the 2016 championship standings. And Arndt is making quick work of these lap cars. See, Mac Johnson's now making it very easy on the 37 car. In fact, he's pushed Scott Roush to the outside lane. But how about Carter Friesen in the 14? He may have gotten lucky again with the pit strategy, as he has found himself in the 3rd position. And being the points leader, he's only going to probably extend it here today. But then again, John Arndt is up there as well in points. We'll have to see how it all turns out after this race. Kenny Washington in the 1, fighting the traffic behind. Even though he was involved in the accident, actually worked out good for him, running in the 8th spot on track. Coming to the white flag, John Arndt has led most of the laps today. In fact, every single one except the laps he was down on pit road. And it looks like he is going to lead the most important one too, down the back stretch. A great cause on board that car this week, and he is going to show them to victory lane. Checkered flag for the Blue Flare Motorsports entry. And John Arndt is going to be your Sylvania LED 200 winner at Bristol Motor Speedway. And the win that did not surface last week at Atlanta will come to fruition here. And Arndt is going to celebrate this one, I guarantee you. After the struggles he faced last year, this has got to be relieving to be able to show off his true talents in the series. As Arndt grabs the victory, Carter Friesen is going to come home 2nd place. An astounding finish by that 14 team. Just almost out of nowhere at the end there, Scott Roush will finish 3rd with Harrison and Isaac Nichols rounding out the top 5. And down the grid, a bunch of cars sneaking their way in on pit strategy, but a few cars dropping out as well, like Samantha Jones, Gatlin Downey, Ryan Kendall, all having great runs up until the pit stops, but unfortunately they were caught out. And all 3 of those Dodge part-timers that ran well were caught off guard by those pit stops. And that's a shame to see, but as we see the point standings, the top 2 have taken an incredible lead over the rest of the pack. In fact, 1st place is already 52 points ahead of Robert Harrison. That's already almost a full race. A lot of drivers going to have to dig themselves out of a hole going through the rest of the season in order to get back into the championship hunt. And Colin Denton sits on top of the part-timer point standings despite not making it through the duels here today at Bristol. But that's all for now at Bristol, the ASCA League, and the Copperhead Amateur Series. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Mosport, whereas the Pennzoil Pro Series is coming up next here at Bristol for their 4th race of the season. We'll see you then.